So, this is the story of Halo Wars, so I'm going to ask you guys to talk a little bit about the setting of the game.
All right. So yeah, how to catch up on Halo Wars. It's been about 28 years since we saw our heroes last. First game, Captain Cutter's the captain of the Spirit of Fire. It's originally a settlement ship that was converted to a ship that can build armies and bases and everything the humans needed to fight the Covenant at the time. In the course of that first game, they stopped a Covenant plot to kind of take over a giant foreigner fleet. Anyway, it's complicated. Captain Cutter sacrificed his engine, and at the end of that game, he stopped the Covenant. Yay, save the day. But now they're lost in space. There's no way to get home, and so they go into cryosleep for about 28 years. And that's when, 28 years later, we start on Halo Wars 2. Captain Cutter and his crew wake up. They're above a massive alien installation, a place we later learn is called the Ark. For anybody who played Halo 3, that's a spot you visited and blew up a little bit with Master Chief in that game. But they quickly need to get a powerful crash course in everything that's happened in Halo since they left, because all of the Halo games with Master Chief have taken place since the Spirit of Fire went offline, effectively. So they're catching up on the modern Halo universe. They're catching up on some new threats. They went to sleep and they were fighting the Covenant. They wake up and they're fighting the Banished, led by Atriox, and that's a very new enemy and a very new threat they're facing right now. So that's a quick summary of the first couple minutes of the story setup of the game. But we meet some new characters, we meet some new enemies, and set up a really clear, despite all that intro, hopefully a very clean story that people can enjoy just jumping right into Halo Wars 2.
This is the first Halo game that is moving the franchise story forward. Besides, we stopped having Master Chief because the other games were spin-offs and they were all prequels. The first Halo Wars and Halo ODST. What were the challenges you faced, or if you can comment anything on that?
Sure. So bringing Halo Wars 2 into the modern-day Halo timeline comes with some costs. Some collaboration, extra homework that we have to do with the internal team, the team that's building the Master Chief stories moving forward, because it's important to us that all of our stories work well together. If you've played Halo 4, Halo 5, you need to have that time recognized in Halo Wars 2, and it will be. There's some really important and some interesting connections between Halo 5 and Halo Wars 2. And then in Halo Wars 2, hopefully we'll start to set up some things that we'll talk about, adventures that other characters in Halo will have moving forward. I'm not going to spoil any of those today. But it's that coordination, because players who come in and spend time in Halo really need to have that time that they've spent respected, and they need to be rewarded with extra, insight, extra connections, extra ooh, I know what that is kind of moments. That somebody new who can come in, they need to be able to play the game, understand the story, get excited about the characters that we're setting up right here. But again, if you spent the time in the universe, that time will be rewarded.
Yeah, if you want to just talk a little bit about the leaders thing. It's interesting to hear up to the story, but we're also doing stories as a much larger picture, no pun intended, because we also have the challenge of bringing the visuals of pre-Halo 1 in line with post-Halo 5, and that's a whole book unto itself. But all the things that he's speaking about in the story, those are very similar challenges that we have artistically, in that we need to have familiar but yet new, and doing that has been fun.
So anybody who played the beta was able to play as Cutter. He's the captain of the Spirit of Fire, coming back from the first game, and then Atriox, and he's the new leader of the Banished for this time around. On the UNSC side, other leaders, we've got Professor Anders making an exciting return from the first game, and then Isabel, who's a brand new character in AI that we're introducing for Halo Wars 2. And on the Banished side, we've got a couple of other of Atriox's motley crew. Decimus, who is a very loyal, long-term brute supporter of Atriox, and then a fellow we're calling the Shipmaster, who's actually a mercenary. He's got a very different motivation than anything we've seen elites fight for in the past. But again, Atriox's crew and Atriox's threat he poses is not something that Halo's experienced before.
Okay. You are bringing back the Spartan 2, and they are on your year 5. Where are the Spartans 3 in this story? Because nobody has remembered these guys. Have you forgotten about them? Where's June?
Where's June? I have not forgotten about the Spartan 3s. I love all of our Spartans. So, I mean, it's actually fun to have all these different kinds of Spartans in the universe. We've got the 2s, came up with Chief. We've got the 3s, guys like June that we saw a little bit in Reach, and then the rest of the Spartan 3s, Ghosts of Onyx style, and then the Spartan 4s, obviously, we've been spending a lot of time with lately in Halos 4 and 5. What we have discussed so far, and what I will talk about so far, is bringing Red Team back into the picture. We saw Red Team in the first Halo Wars. They got up to a lot of fighting. Mostly they stuck with the fighting in the first Halo Wars, and they're actually going to play a much larger role in the story in Halo Wars 2. Jerome in particular is the leader of Red Team.
I was going to echo on that. Like, that's been probably the most exciting part about this, is like taking something like Red Team or someone like Red Team, composite Red Team. Last time we saw them just kicking butt, and this time it's just completely opposite. But just on a higher level of that, with the leaders that he mentioned, a big thing we want to do, both story-wise and visually, just give these characters more depth so that they're more interesting, and they're characters you want to get to know, both good and bad. And I want to fight them, and I want to fight with them, and I want to fight as them. So adding lots of layers, both story-wise and visually, I don't know, to me that's probably our biggest challenge, but to me the most exciting part of this project is just making interesting, compelling characters that you as fans want to play and get to know.
Okay. You were talking a lot about how big the Halo universe is, and how you can split the stories and everything. But of course you're not going to answer me that, but if you can give just an insight on if you intend, or because the fans will be expecting that, but to make these characters and put them with Master Chief at some point.
Right.
Have you thought on that?
So I will answer that yes, we've thought about crossovers between Halo Wars 2 and other Halo stories. I cannot say at this moment what that's going to lead to, but what I can say for sure is that, like, just the emergency spoiler grenade, is that all the stories that 343's put together, all the Halo stories work together and they fit together. And like I said a minute ago, is that if you've played Halo 5, there are things that you will find in Halo Wars 2 that will make you sit up and pay attention. And if you play Halo Wars 2, you'll have some ideas about some things that might be coming in Halo in the future. And so it's a delicate balance of ways to make those stories connect in some interesting ways, but that doesn't make it too hard for new players and new Halo fans to come on board. So it's a balance that we work a lot about. We do think a lot about all the time. How can we make this universe something easy for people to jump into, but at the same time, for those guys who've been with us for, and girls, for 15 years hanging out with Master Chief, they need to feel like they're special here.
Cohesive. It's got to feel like a single universe. So, and that's been, I think honestly, story has a much harder challenge than the art people, but we have the similar challenge in that our stuff needs to fit into. It's not that our stuff needs to fit into theirs and theirs vice versa. It's all part of the same big, awesome Halo universe. So we want to be this cohesive, it's part of the same technology, the same races. So crossover from that level, definitely there will be crossover. We will totally bring in stuff from contemporary, stuff from classic into next Halo titles. Especially when we start seeing what some of the fan favorites are. If they really fall in love with a specific unit or a weapon or something like that, sure, we'll do our best to try to make sure that lives on in other titles, for sure.
You two guys tell me two things. What is your favorite Halo game in story or campaign and multiplayer? So,
Man, this is like, which of your kids do you love the most? And you're looking at your kids right now. Like, literally, I'm surrounded by my kids in this question right now. As a story guy, I'm not going to go into favorites. Let me say, I'm not going to say a 343 one because that seems like cheating. From the Bungie era, I'm going to say Halo 2 from a story perspective, just because, as a story guy, really getting to know the Covenant and going deeper on the Covenant and what motivated them and the power struggles inside of that. And that kind of Jeremy mentioned a minute ago, of having that depth of, it's not just a broad universe, but it's deep as well. Like, there's stories here, and if I want to spend more time, I'm going to find out some crazy new things. So I'll say that on the story front. I mean, on the multiplayer front, it kind of depends on what mood I'm in. Like, different games offer you different levels of explosion. I know this is a very diplomatic answer, but
Halo Wars 2 is my favorite.
But I mean, I'm partial to Halo Wars 2 right now. I mean, it's excited to get that out there. But I don't know, man. I don't want to pick. Do I have to pick?
I have the same thing. Halo 2. Just because you get to walk in the shoes of the enemy, like, it's a great way to kind of see the same situation from a different perspective, and you have a much more, maybe not compassion, but just an understanding of what motivates, what makes that character tick. And so kind of circle back to what I was saying before about making characters that actually have value and I want to get to know them. I think that's important to give them some perspective, give them flaws, give them relatable traits and experiences that I kind of see why he did it that way. I probably would have done the same thing. Like, I think that just makes super interesting characters, and we try to back that up both visually, but narratively is the first tip of that spear. But it's what's most exciting for me. And so, to answer the second half of your question, my favorite multiplayer today is Halo Wars 2.
Okay.
If I get to cheat, I'll say
I get to cheat.
well, Halo Wars 2, or I'll see you in Warzone tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't want to push the guy with the grenade.
Yes.
So
Exactly. It's usually a
let's keep
bad
the pin
idea.
there and-
Pins ago. Sort of story.
And the one who comes to find me when my time is through, I know you. Yeah, I know